Yeah. Oh, recording. Good. Wonderful. So let us learn a little bit about the portion of the week. Shalom. You hear me? Do you hear me? Yochanan? Yes? Good. Huh? Are you hear me? Oh. Go message. There you go. Can't hear me. Okay, here we go. What about here? Can you hear me now? No. Can you? Let's see. Maybe I should be able to hear me. 1 second. This is working. Is this working? Yes. It should be working. Is it working? Still not can. Okay. Still don't hear? No? Let's see. Maybe I'll turn this off again. Turn it back on. Check over here. Do you hear me? Yes, good, wonderful. Okay, here we are. Let us learn a little bit of the Chumash. We haven't got much time. We can learn some Chumash. Here we have a beautiful story about the Teva. The Teva, Noah's Ark. Incredible, Noah's Ark. So God tells him to take all of the animals in the world, 2 by 2, and the kosher animals 7 by 7. Not that many kosher animals. 7 by 7, and to put them all in this ark. And he says what the measure of this ark is supposed to be. He says, so this is how you should make the ark. 300 amas long. 300 amas is the length of this whole thing. 300 amas long. So 300 amas, that's like a football field and a half, something like that. A football field is, an am is like a foot and a half. Foot and a half is a football field. And a football field is like what? 300 feet, right? 100 yards. 300 feet. And this is 300 feet and a half. That's how long an am is. So it's about 450 feet long. And how tall is it? 450 feet long. That's the length of the table. Chamishim ama rochva. It's 50 amas wide. 50 amas wide. In other words, 1/6 of how long it is, right? It's 30 amas tall. So 30 amas tall, that's about like 3 stories. 3 stories. 4 stories. 4 stories. That's about 4 stories high. Okay, but this is also divided. And then it says that it's divided. Here it goes. And you have to make a window on the top and an open on the side. And you have to make it 3 floors. Rashi is going to say, some people say it's some sort of a stone, a phosphorus stone or something, some sort of a stone that shined up all the time. Because there wasn't any light there. It was only a little tiny window in the time, this. And the door was always closed. They put that on the side. That's all the animals could come in and come out. Also, Noah could also come. Tachtiyim shniim ushlishim taseh. Taseh, you have to make it 3 stories high. 3 stories high. So in other words, each and every one of these stories, we said would be 10 amos high. The whole thing was 30 amos high, right? So it's 10 amos high, and each one of them was 50 by 500. Huh? Each one of them was 50 by 500, but only 10 almas high. The whole business was 30 almas high. So let's have a look and see what's going on here. Look at this. There's a beautiful kliyakar. So this is how you should make it. 30 amas, 300 amas long, 50 amas wide. So the whole thing was 300 by 50, right? And 30 amas high. So each floor was 10 amas high, but it had the same floor space. Okay. Rashi doesn't say anything. Evan Ezra, very nice. Here, let's look at the Malbim. The Malbim brings a little Kabbalah over here. The Malbim says, Zeh asher ta'aseh. So this is how it should be made. It comes to hint that Hashem will spread over the world a new world. Sukkot Shalom. The days of the Mashiach, there's going to be, it says, Opras Sukkah Shalom Aleinu V'Al. We see this in the Shabbos prayer, right? Right before Baruch Hu. Opras Sukkah Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Al Yishulayim. Right, let's see, 1 second. 1 second here. There we go. In the nighttime, we say in the Shabbos prayers, here we go. Are these? No, it's right before Shemona Esrei. I'm sorry. Here it goes. Right before Shemona Esrei. Porei Sukkah Shalom Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael Sukkah. So what is this Sukkah Shalom? There's going to be, it says the whole world will be like Noah's Ark. The whole world will be like Noah's Ark. What happened in Noah's Ark? There was all these wild animals, and they were pretty small place when you think about it. If you consider all these panthers and lions and snakes and all these weird things, these dangerous animals, they were all together, and it gets bored. They were there for 1 full year, and none of them hurt one another. You know, the whole 1 year, all these lions or whatever had to look at these 7 juicy gazelles or whatever they always eat, and they had nowhere to run. You know, they had nowhere to run these, and they could easily have eaten them, but they didn't. So he said that's what the whole world is going to be like. It's going to be a sukkah shalom. God is going to spread the sukkah of shalom over the whole world. And this is explained in Tikkuni Zohar. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sharing this with you, am I? 1 minute. I'm sorry. Small mistake. Here we go. Wrong thing. I bought the wrong one. Let's try this again. Turn to the meeting. New share. There, okay. So it says, this is how, now you can see it, right? Yes. It says, this is how you should. It says, this hints that Noah's Ark hints at the sukkah that God is going to spread over us. Like it says in the Zohar, this is the uniting of Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei, and Adoni. God's 2 names. The name Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei, this shows that God is Mehave, Mechadesh, that God is creating the world and he's making it brand new. The name Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, this shows on the Shmir of Hashgacha. Adoni, this is God's severity. Everything has to be exactly right. That's the name Adoni. And there's even Sephardic Siddur. Maybe you've seen it. You ever see it? But every time it says Yud Kei Vav Kei, it has Adoni written there, right? And intertwined in the words or in the letters. Essentially, that's why we're in the world, right? We're in the world because the whole world is made from the name Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, and we're to reveal the Creator in the creation. But here he says in the future, that's what it's going to be. The 8, and when Yisachach Avaya al Adoni, this is when we'll cover over the name Yud Kei Vav Kei al Adoni, Sheminyana Olam, the number that it comes out to be Sukkah. How does Sukkah? The name Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26. Here we have 26, right? The middle two letters are 26. The name Adoni, that adds up to 65. That's the first letter and the last letter, the 65. See, Nun Yud is 60 and Aleph Dalet is 5. Yetzir, so it comes out a Mispar Shalom, a complete number. Also, even more, look at this. It comes out also Mispar Shalom. This is the gematria of Shalom. How so? If you take Yud and with Aleph of Alani, that comes out to be 10. Am I right? Hey, the second letter of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, with the Dalid, that comes out to be 20. This is the, this number Shalom, this is the measurement, this is the measurement of the ark. This is the measurement of the ark. How so? You get the Yud, God's name is Yud He Vav He, right? So you say Yud with the Aleph, that's 10. Then you have the Hey together with the Dalid. How much is that at, if you multiply it 5 times, that's 20. 20 together, the first two letters, that comes out to be 10, and 20 is 30. So this is the 30 amos of the height of the ark. Shloshim ama komoso. Now let's take the next letter of God's name, Yud, Hey, and then Vav. Vav with the third letter of Adoni is Vav times 6 times 50. That's 300. That's the length. And the last letter of God's name, 300. The last letter of God's name with the last letter of Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, that's 5 times 10. That's 50. That's exactly the height. Right? That's the number of Rachava. Sachakol, altogether, the number, a complete number, Imakol. That ends up the whole entire name of Hashem. 1 second. Even more, 1 second. This ends up to be Shalom. The name Shalom with a call. So excuse me. Hello. Me? אתה מביא משהו כאן? Hello? אז אתה מביא לי משהו? אני לא הבנתי. אתה מרישה? אתה... רק שנייה אחד. Someone at the door, please wait just 2 minutes, please. Okay. Yeah, that also adds up to the number Shalom with a kolel. How so? What did we say? It's 300 long, right? 300. That's the shin. It's 30 high. That's lamed. It's 50 wide. 50 wide. Mem is 40 with a vav. That's 46. If you count with the kolel, count each letter. Shin, lamed, vav, mem. That's 4. You add it up, it ends up to be 50. So that's the 50 amos wide, 300 amos long, 30 amos tall. Number Shalom. And that's going to be Sukkot Shalom, which is going to be in the future. The Kli Yakar is also very beautiful, but it's a little bit long. So if you want to, we can learn it. I just have to go to the bathroom one minute. Do you have a little bit of time? If you have time, then we can learn this also. 1 second. All right, my friend. Here we have a beautiful Kli Yakar. Let's see if, yeah, it's a bit long. I'm wondering if we should do it tomorrow because basically the time is finished. What he wants to do, the Kli Yakar, as he wants to show that the main sin of the generation of the flood was a sexual sin. That they didn't want to have children and everybody perverted their ways. And that the ark hints at this by the letters of Yud K, of the Tes Vav Yud K. So that's going to be the whole hinting of how the ark comes to fix everything up. Right, pretty amazing. But you know what? Let's do this tomorrow. Come tomorrow on time. Let's do something else. Come as long as we're here. So let's do a little bit of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. Yes, yes. Stop share. New share. Share screen. Okay, if you remember, we learned yesterday about Bishul Achar Bishul. We learned that if you have food that is totally dry, totally, and it has to be totally cooked. If it's totally dry and it's totally cooked, then even if it's also cold, you can heat it up on Shabbat. And if it's not totally cold, if it's a little bit warm enough so you could eat it, then even if it's wet, it has to be totally cooked, we said. If it's totally cooked, then you can even put it into a Kli Rishon, as is understood, not on the fire. It's the door. All right, but it is permissible to pour from a Kli Sheni it is permissible to pour from a Kli Sheni on something that is wet, even if it is not, I'm sorry, something that is dry, that is not wet, even if this thing is not boiled yet. Because a Kli Sheni does not cook. And especially pouring from a Kli Sheni for sure does not cook. Well, almost for sure. There are what we call kulias aspanim. There's some sort of a fish, some sort of a sardine or whatever it is, that a little bit of hot water, even if it's hot water from a Kli Sheni, will finish it off. And that you can't do, Kli Sheni. But generally speaking, a Kli Sheni does not boil. We'll get to that. Now again, if you remember, what is a Kli Sheni? What's a Kli Rishon? A Kli Rishon is a vessel that is, or even was, directly on the fire. And it still is hot. Yad Soletis Bo. Some people are machmiv not, but let's, Yad Soletis Bo. Has to be so hot that your hand can't touch it. And even if you took it off of the fire and you put it on your table, you cannot put anything uncooked in that vessel, in that soup. But what if you put from that vessel, poured from that vessel into your soup plate? That's called a Kli Sheni. And generally speaking, we say a Kli Sheni does not boil. And you can, for sure, you can pour from a Kli Sheni on anything, even totally uncooked food, because a Kli Sheni does not boil, except for this fish, which is called kulius ispanim. We'll learn other examples also of things that you can. We also talked, if you remembered, about a Kli Sheni in general, not just pouring from a Kli Sheni, but put things directly into a kli sheni. A thing which is dry is not cooked at all, as in a kli sheni, you cannot put a thing that is not cooked at all. It's forbidden from divrei sofrim because it looks like you're cooking. Kli sheni. But pouring from a kli sheni, we said, is okay, except on these fish. But there is something in a kli sheni which you can put, and it doesn't look like you're cooking, and that is spices. And some people also say onions and garlic, that those are also called spices. You can put them in a kli sheni, but pouring from a kli sheni on them, you can do that on anything except for things that are easily boiled. But now we're going to see there's going to be a big exception over here. And here we go. We did this yesterday. We said anything that you can cook, you can soak anything in a vessel that is not yad soletis bowl. Now, some people say if it's a kli rishon, not, but any other, even if it makes it fitting, you can pour cold water on anything you want to. Good. Now what we're talking about are things that have been cooked. They have been boiled, and there is no bishul achar bishul. In other words, the most exaggerated example is you have something that was already boiled, a piece of chicken, and it's totally dry, but it's totally cold. You took it out of the freezer, totally cold. But if it's totally dry, then you can take this piece of chicken and put it into a kli rishon that's boiling, as long as it's not on the fire. A kli rishon that's boiling, you can put it in because the food has already been boiled. Your chicken has already been boiled. It has no liquid in it, and we don't care if it's totally cold or not. It's already been cooked. And bishul achar bishul, a thing that has been boiled, you don't have to worry about boiling it again. If that thing is wet a little bit, then we say that the liquid on it does become boiled. So that's forbidden, but can't, okay. That's talking about a thing that's already been boiled. But what about a thing? Yesh mishomer. Some people say sha'afal pi, even though there is no boiling after boiling. But davar yavish, and a thing that's dry. Mikol makom. Nevertheless, there is boiling after something that was baked or something that was roasted. When you have a piece of bread that you baked, and that bread is totally dry, and it's totally baked, nevertheless, you cannot put that into a kli rishon that's boiling, even if it's not on the fire. If it's on the fire, you can't put anything in it ever. Or let's say you have a piece of roasted beef, and it's totally dry, roasted beef, totally dry, roasted. You cannot put that in a place where there is boiling water. Roasted means it never touched water. So again, yesh mishomer, some people say, sha'afal pi, even though that there is no bishul echer bishul, there's no such thing as boiling a thing that's already been boiled if that thing is dry, and of course it's already dry. Nevertheless, yesh bishul echer afia. There is, you can't boil something after something was baked or roasted, even though it was totally baked. Totally baked, 100% baked. You're not improving it at all by putting it into hot boiling water. Nevertheless, it was never boiled. You're boiling it for the first time. Or something that was roasted. You put it into boiling hot water, a kli rishon that's not on the fire, you're boiling it for the first time. If that food had been boiled before, and it was totally boiled and it was dry, you could put it into a boiling hot pot, even if it was totally cold. You put it into boiling hot water, but not something that's never been boiled before. It's only been baked or roasted. Sha'afui, because something that was baked. Otsalui, or roasted. Im natnu, if you put it. Afilu ba'odoroteach, even when it's still boiling hot, you take it off of the spit. or you take it out of the oven and it's still boiling hot, and you put it in on Shabbat into a Kli Rishon, that the Yad Soledes bowl, you put it inside of a Kli Rishon. Of course, it's not on the fire, but it's still boiling hot. Chayav, you're guilty. That's an opinion. According to this opinion, gam b'Kli Sheni, even a Kli Sheni, you should be machmer from Divrei Sofrim, like we said before. In other words, therefore, we have to be careful. Lo litain pas, don't put bread, afuya, baked bread, normal bread, afilu bekera, even in your soup plate, she klisheni, which is a klisheni, all the time the Yad Soledes pay. All the time the soup in your soup plate is the temperature of Yad Soledes boy. In other words, it's so hot that you can't touch it. As all that time, you cannot put it in. Let's see, 1 second. Give me 1 minute. What is the temperature of Yad Soledet bowl? There's all these different opinions. And some people say, like I said, Yad Soledet means that you can't touch it. But there's also a temperature that's also under this food. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said that 110 degrees Fahrenheit is Yad Soledet Bay. Huh? Yeah, 110 degrees Fahrenheit is Yad Soledet Bay. And he also said that it could be as high as 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So you should be the most 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And listen, 100 degrees Fahrenheit is pretty hot, right? You go outside, it's pretty hot. And especially if you have like a car, right? You go outside on a regular day, 110 degrees outside, that's almost unbearable. That's really, really hot outside. But on the other hand, it's not so hot. I mean, a person's bodily temperature is 98.6 degrees. So that's not really that, a person is certainly not anywhere near boiling hot. Boiling hot is what, 212 degrees in Fahrenheit. So 110 degrees, which is like about a half of that. That's, on the other hand, if it's 100 degrees outside and you get into your car, you want to go and drive your car, and you forgot to put a sun shield, you can't touch your steering wheel. It's very, very difficult. That certainly is Yad Soledes Bay. And for sure, also, you're not going to put your hand on the hood of your car. It's really hot. And of course, it's not getting any hotter than the weather is outside. The temperature outside doesn't heat up the hood of your car any more than the temperature is. So it makes 110 degrees. It's unbearable. You can't touch that one. So he says, therefore, if your soup is 110 degrees, but what Moshe Feinstein says that therefore you cannot put, let's say, bread into it. Anything that has never been boiled. Therefore, according to this opinion, it's pretty severe. What does it mean? That if you take a piece of bread and you put it into a Kli Rishon that's not on the fire, the punishment is death. That's pretty severe. Of course, you have to be warned, and after this, nowadays there's no death. But nevertheless, it shows that God is definitely not pleased with what you're doing. According to this, even in a Kli Sheni, you have to be machmer for divrei sofrim, like we said before. Therefore, be careful not to put baked bread into your soup bowl that's Yad Soledes bowl. Some people say that you should really worry that maybe it's not only midrabanan, maybe it's mamish from the Torah and a Kli Sheni, in a Yad Soledes bowl. Why? Because there are certain things that are soft that they boil even in a Kli Sheni, and we're not exactly bucking what they are. It could be bread is one of those things. So therefore, according to this, it could be forbidden from the Torah to put a piece of bread, cooked, already baked bread, to take a piece of bread and put it into your soup if the soup is Yad Soledes bowl. And the soup is in a klisheni. Why? Because bread is considered to be a soft thing regarding this, and it will boil even in a klisheni that the Yad Soletis put. And this, we should also have a doubt in everything else. And what should we do? We should be machmir in everything. In other words, watch out for a klisheni. Some people say that a klisheni boils from the Torah, with the exception of tavlin, with the exception of spices. Spices, the rabbis explicitly permitted you to put spices into a klisheni, even if it's boiling hot. Another example is also water, oil, like we're going to explain later on. If you have in a klisheni, you want to put water into it, then that's okay. No problem. So let's say you have, you take coffee or tea, water, hot boiling water. That's why some people use pre-prepared tea on Shabbos. They make a really strong, super strong tea, and then they take boiling hot water from the thing, and it's and it's in your cup. You can't touch it; it's so boiling hot. And then they take this tea and they pour it in. Or if you could do the same thing with coffee, you're worried about making coffee grounds. You don't want to pour hot water on the coffee grounds or something like that. So therefore, make the coffee before and make it really, really strong, and then you can pour it into a klisheni, and liquid into a klisheni you have no worry about. It's the same thing with all other liquids. According to this, even roasted meat you should be machmir to put it into a klisheni if the klisheni is boiling, because we say there is bishul achar tzliya. But in a thing that has never been boiled, you have to watch out not even to put it into a klisheni, even if that thing is hot, even if that thing is dry, whatever it is. If it's never been boiled, you can't put it into a klisheni. You're boiling for the first time. But something that's already boiled, you should never be machmer. Even in a kli rishon, that according to everyone, boiling, there is no boiling after boiling in something that is totally dry. Let's just finish this one law. You can go over this also if you want to, because the laws are a little bit maybe confusing. So very simply, up to now, what have we said? A kli sheni, some people say it boils. And especially it will boil a thing that has never been boiled before. And therefore, according to that opinion that says that a thing which has never been boiled before, you have to worry about putting it into hot water. You have to worry about even putting it into a kli sheni. That's the opinion that says there is bishul, achar, afia, and sliya. But yesh matirim, some people say that it's okay. There's no problem. If a thing has been prepared, we don't care how it's been prepared. If a thing has already been cooked or baked or roasted and it's finished, then it's permissible to, on Shabbat, to boil it in a kli rishon, even if it's not on the fire. Yesh matirim ba'afoy v'tzali, even if it's totally cold. Some people say that it's okay to take a piece of bread, even if it's totally cold, and put it even into a kli rishon, roteach, even to take it and put it into a kli rishon, a pot. Take it that you took off the fire, put on the table. Boiling hot soup is in that pot. Some people will say if it's not on the fire, you can put even bread into it. There's no bishul, ain't bishul, even after afia v'tzaliyah. Then what's the custom? Our custom is to be careful l'chadchila, like the first opinion. Don't put bread even into a kli sheni all the time. That's yad soletis. But if you did it, yesh lahater, we can say it's permissible, even if you put it in the kli rishon, like the last opinion. So in other words, you have guests that come over, and they want to throw pieces of bread. You take a pot of boiling hot soup off of the stove, and you put it on the table, and the guest says, here, I got some croutons that I bought. These are things that are just baked. They've never been boiled before in the history of the world. And now I'm going to put them into your kli rishon that you just put on. You're going to see this is going to really taste good. This is going to be a Shabbos you're never going to forget. You say, no, don't do it. I hold with the opinion that says there is bishal achar afia. This bread has never been boiled. Don't do it. And your guest says, you don't know what you're missing. Watch this. And he pours it into your pot of soup, boiling hot soup that you took off the fire. What do you say now? No, you wrecked my whole Shabbos. We can't eat this anymore. I'm never going to invite you again. No. You can say, okay, listen, lechatchila, you shouldn't have done it. I hold with, but b'diavad, if you did it, let's eat and we'll see how it tastes. Let's eat and see how it tastes. But next Shabbos, do me a favor, eat by somebody else's house, or don't bring your croutons. But b'diavad, it's okay. You can eat it. And that ends today's class. God willing, tomorrow, 8:15, come to Chassidus, and we'll learn Chassidus. We'll continue the Sicha, and again at 3 o'clock. Have a good day. Shalom. Oh, what's this here? A note. I have to get a secret note over here. Where's that note? Yeah. Okay. Shalom.